We're learning now, continuing the Mishnah Lil Nishmas, Levi Yitzchok ben Reb Chaim Tzvi. So we're up to Mishnah Tes in Nizikin Perik Gimel. So the Mishnah Tes says like this: Shoir Shovem Moneh Shenogach Shoir Shovem Mosayim. We're talking an ox which is a tam, which only pays a half a nezek, and he pays the half a nezek migufoy, which means only from the value of the ox itself, the ox that gores. You pay 50%, but only of the damages, only to the extent that you can pay from the ox itself. So the example is like this. You have an ox which is worth 100, a moneh, 100, and he gored and killed a shoir shaveh mosayim, an ox that is valued at 200. So basically, you did damage to the owner of the other ox. You did damage of 200. Being that you're a tam, the owner of the ox that gored, that killed, is a tam, he only has to pay 50%. So that means that he has to pay him. He has to pay him 100, which means the ox itself is worth 100. Now, the ein hanevela yofa klum, and the carcass, the dead ox that was worth 200, isn't worth anything. You can't sell it. You can't use it for nothing. So basically, that person is out the entire 200. You did damage for 200. You got to pay 50%. So there's the carcass isn't worth anything. So the one who was damaged will take the ox that is worth 100, and that will pay for his damage of 200 because he pays 50% of 200. So he takes the ox, which is worth 100. There's nothing to collect from the carcass because the carcass isn't worth anything. What happens if it was shoir shove mosayim, shenogach shoir shove mosayim? If the ox that gored was worth 200, and he gored an ox which is worth 200. So now he did damage for 200. So he only owes him, however, he only really owes him 100 because he's a tom. So you can't give him the whole ox because the ox is worth 200. So that would be too much. He only owes him 100. And since the ox that gored was only worth, is the damages is only 100. So you can't just take the whole ox. So ve'ein hanevela yofa klum. And also there is nothing to collect from the carcass. So we have to take now the ox that gored, and he has to pay 100 from the ox himself, but the ox is worth 200, so we can't just take away the ox like in the case before where the ox was worth only 100. So therefore, what you do is you sell the ox that gored, the ox that caused the damage, and then you split the difference in half, and you pay 100 to the person you damage, and you get to keep it 100. Amar Rab Meir says, Al Zen Nemar, about this it says in the Pasuk, Umochru es ashoir hachai, you sell the living ox, v'chotzu es kaspa, and you split the money of the living ox, because he is worth 200 and you only owe 100, and you only pay from within the ox itself. So what we do is we take the living ox, the one that gored, and the chotzu es kaspai, and then when you sell it, you split the money. So 100 of the 200 goes to the one who damaged, and the other 100 stays by the owner. So Omer lo Rabbi Yehuda, so Rabbi Yehuda says, v'chein halacha, that's the halacha, but that's not really the meaning in the pasuk. And we have to learn how the Bartanura explains. It's a little bit complicated over here the way he calculates it. because we're going to see, we're talking about a situation, we're talking about the whole time that the carcass isn't worth anything. In that case, it's very simple. It splits, and he owes him $100, a money, because he's a tam and he damaged him for 200. You give him 100. But here the issue becomes, we're saying that the carcass isn't worth anything. Rabbi Yehuda's issue and Rabbi Meir, they're disagreeing about the meaning of the pasuk, as we will see what the pasuk means. Here we're talking about a case that at the time that he gored, the carcass wasn't worth anything. But now we're saying that the carcass got the value. Let's say now it's worth 10, or here it's they say the example of 50. It got before the carcass was worth zero. Now the question is, uh, does the improvement that now it's worth something? So it turns out that the one that got damaged, he gains. The mazik, according to Rabbi Meir, the mazik uh, will still, he'll have to give him 100. The nizak gets to hold on to his carcass, the dead animal, and now the dead animal is worth $10, let's say, or 10. So he can't deduct, the mazik can't deduct because of the value of the carcass. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he could deduct that extra money. So that's the disagreement there. Let's look at the Bartanura and see how he explains it. V'chein halacha. So Rabbi Yehuda says to Rabbi Meir, you're right. V'adekein halacha. The mona noisen loy that he gives him only 100, the hainu chatzi nezek, that's half of the damages. Aval ein zeh shoyer ha'amur b'Torah. That's not the ox that the Torah's example the Torah talked about. Why? The kiyamto umochres asher achai b'chulu. In your case, you only fulfill the first part of the pasuk, that you sell the living ox and then you split. So he says like this: Uplukta that Rabbi Meir of Rabbi Yehuda who b'shvach nevela. The machlokes between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda is when the carcass improved. Kigoin shebishas misa lohoiso shova klum. At the time of the death, it wasn't worth anything. If the carcass was worth at the time of death, whatever it was worth, you deduct that, because the nizik, the damage, wasn't damaged totally for 200 of his ox, because he still gets the carcass, which is worth something, so he's not fully damaged. So in that case, there would be no question if whatever the carcass is worth, we're going to deduct. But in this case, we're talking about a situation that b'shas misa loy hoyso shava klum. It wasn't worth anything, so therefore he owes him straight 100. But v'nisyakra acharkach, then the carcass became later on more expensive. How? So what is it worth? What is a carcass worth? Either you can feed it to the dogs, or a guy can eat, doesn't need a shechted animal. An animal that is dead, he can go ahead and buy it, so it's worth money. So Rabbi Meir Sovar, the first time in our Mishnah, Sovar Shvach Nevela de Nizaku. The improvement that the Nevela now is the carcass belongs to the one whose ox it was originally, and now that his carcass is worth now money, he gets to keep it. The loy shokil b'mazik klum, the mazik is not going to take it, not going to deduct. He's still going to have to give him 50%, the 100. And that's why the Meir says, this is what the pasuk says, that you sell the living ox and you split the money. That means you have to give half of the damages from the living ox. You cannot deduct, the mazik will not deduct anything because the carcass improved now. So you're saying the mazik cannot say to the nizik, oh, you're not really damaged for 200. You were damaged less because the carcass is worth something. You get money for it. So you didn't really have, you can't say that. The mazik has to pay because at the time of the damage, he was damaged to 100. That's the way it stays. And the fact that the carcass is worth now money, that's money found for the nizek. But Rabbi Yehuda holds the chatzi shevach nevela the mazik havi, that half of the improvement of the nevela is the mazik, that he gets to also benefit the 50% of. It's not, the carcass doesn't belong fully to the nizik. It belongs to both of us because I'm paying for it. So the fact that my ox damage, I have to pay. So 50% of the improvement belongs to me. Ukshabo mazik l'shalom l'nizik d'meichetzi niske, when the mazik is coming to pay to the nizik who he damaged, the money of half of his damages, menakiloi chatzi shvach sheshbicha nevela, he can deduct half of that improvement, that the improvement, the carcass improved, mishas misad shas amod bedin, from the time of the death till the time of amod bedin. So let's say it improved, now it's worth $10. $5 is credited to the mazik, so he only won't have to pay him 100. He'll only pay him 95, and the other one will get the 5 from the carcass that is worth now 10. He gets 5 of it. Rabbi Yehuda the Rabbi Meir. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says to Rabbi Meir. You fulfilled, you sold the living ox, but but you did not fulfill the second part, that you also have to split the dead ox. What it means, the pasuk means, says Rabbi Yehuda, what the pasuk says, "V'gam esameis yechtzun shetzorich lechalik hashvach sheishbiach hameis," that you did to split also the dead. You have to split, which means to split the improvement that the dead ox improved. V'shokile mazik palga, and the mazik takes half. V'aloch Rabbi Yehuda. Now let's learn the words that the Bartanura inside the Mishnah. So he says, "Kiyamto mochres asher achai v'chotzes kasboi." According to Reb Meir, while you fulfilled selling the living ox and you split the money, but v'loy kiyamto, but you haven't fulfilled the second part of the pasuk, v'gam es hameis yechtzun, that you also split the mace. According to Reb Yehuda, we also split the mace because half of the improvement of the mace from the time that it died, that it was gored, until the time that you go to court, that half of it belongs, according to Rabbi Yehuda, to the mazik to deduct. Ve'ezer, what's the case? Zesher shavah masayim shenogach sher shavah masayim. An ox that gored, that was worth 200, gored an ox that is worth 200. V'hanevela yofach hamishim zuz, and now the nevela is worth 50 zuz. Shezeh neitzel chatzi achai v'chatzi hameis. So this one takes half of the living and half of the day of the life, which means he takes 50% of the living of his ox, of the living ox, the $100, let's say that you sell it, but he also takes 50% of the value of the mace that is worth now 10. He takes 5 of it. Same thing for the other one. He also ends up taking half of the chai and half of the mace. Okay, so this is the Mishnah over here, and we'll continue Mirza Shem next time. I have to actually run now.